I'd like to talk to Tom Prichard if you could get him out here.
Well, you want to talk to Tom? My good Lord, what happened to you?
The white boy did this to me, and I'd like to talk to Tom, please.
I don't understand what's going on here. First of all, you sent Charlie Platt back to try and get me. Now you send Gordon Soley out of here, man. It looks to me like you and the white boy got some personal problems, lady. I don't know if you need help or not. Look, all I'm trying to tell you is if you want to get your life straight, get your life straight and don't have to else too. That's all.
At this, and she's party and parcel of this entire situation.
This is too
Oh,
much.
come on.
Now,
hey, we've got to get some help down here. We've got to get some help down here. We've got to get some help.
In the dying days of the professional wrestling territory system, desperation often bred innovation, and sometimes recklessness, as national promotions like WWF and WCW absorbed talent and cultural relevance. Smaller regional companies were forced to fight for attention in increasingly extreme ways. Nowhere was this more evident than in the Continental Wrestling Federation, a Tennessee-based promotion that embraced realism, shock, and emotional manipulation, long before those tactics became synonymous with ECW. While CWF is often remembered as a developmental proving ground for future stars and bookers, it also produced one of the most disturbing and little discussed angles in wrestling history. One so graphic and convincing that it blurred the line between performance and real-world violence, leaving audiences stunned and broadcasters alarmed. The territory presented an angle between Dr. Tom Prichard and the Dirty White Boy that sought to generate maximum emotional response by invoking fake real-world trauma. Centered behind the Dirty White Boy's valet Mystic, the storyline used potential domestic violence not as subtext but as narrative fuel. What followed was not merely a controversial swerve, but a moment where wrestling's hunger for authenticity overtook its sense of restraint, offering a stark example of the ethical risks inherent in pursuing realism at any cost. Born on August 18, 1959 in Texas, Tom Prichard began his professional wrestling career in Los Angeles around 1979, competing for Gene and Mike LaBelle's promotion at the Olympic Auditorium. During his time there, he distinguished himself as a capable and versatile performer, capturing several championships, including the America's Tag Team title alongside Chris Adams. When LaBelle closed the promotion in 1982, Pritchard spent the next several years traveling through various NWA territories, gaining experience and refining his technical skills. By the mid-1980s, he had settled in the southeastern United States, where he would achieve the greatest success of his early career, becoming a regular competitor in Continental Championship Wrestling, which later evolved into the Continental Wrestling Federation. It was in this environment that Pritchard began to establish the credibility and reputation that would make him an ideal figure for high-profile storylines, including some of the most shocking angles in late territory wrestling history. Born on April 12, 1960, Darrell W. Anthony, better known as Tony Anthony or the Dirty White Boy, built his wrestling career throughout the Southern Territories during the early 1980s. Like many performers of the era, he traveled extensively, honing his craft in regional promotions across the southeastern United States, including Continental Championship Wrestling and other NWA-affiliated organizations. Anthony found early success teaming with Len Denton as the Grapplers, capturing the AWA Southern Tag Team Championship in 1983 by defeating the Fabulous Ones, a team already renowned in the Southern Territories. These formative years solidified Anthony's reputation as a hard-hitting, credible heel who could draw intense audience reactions while maintaining believability in the ring. By the late 1980s, his dirty white boy persona, named after the song from the band Foreigner, was starting to become fully realized when he became a singles wrestler. Anthony further cemented his reputation by winning the NWA Alabama Heavyweight Championship on 4 occasions, establishing himself as a hard-hitting, credible heel who could draw intense audience reactions while maintaining believability in the ring. All of these accomplishments made him the ideal antagonist for feuds that demanded grit and unpredictability, qualities that would ultimately define one of the most controversial storylines in wrestling history: his brutal clash with Tom Prichard in the Continental Wrestling Federation. By 1988, the American wrestling landscape was in flux. The territorial system that had dominated the country for decades was collapsing under the pressure of national promotions like the WWF and WCW, which were steadily absorbing talent, television time, and fan attention. Smaller regional promotions, struggling to remain relevant, often sought to differentiate themselves by emphasizing grittier, more emotionally charged storytelling. In this environment, promotions like the Continental Wrestling Federation leaned heavily on the extreme, crafting storylines that blurred the line between scripted drama and actual danger. Audience investment depended on the belief that what they were seeing could, at least in part, happen in real life, a strategy that heightened both suspense and controversy. It was within this territorial landscape, where realism and emotional intensity were prized, that CWF introduced one of its most shocking angles: the feud between Tom Prichard and dirty white boy Tony Anthony, with Lady Mystic at its center. After losing a portion of his hair in a match with Tom Prichard, Tony Anthony placed the blame squarely on his valet Mystic. The storyline escalated the following week when Mystic appeared on CWF television, her face marked with horrendous bruising. She interrupted veteran announcer Gordon Soley, who was visibly shaken as she asked if she could speak with Tom Prichard. At first, Pritchard refused to come out, and Mystic continued pleading tearfully. Gordon Soley eventually left his desk to bring Pritchard out himself. When he arrived, Mystic confided in him, claiming she needed his help and Anthony had hit her, turning him so that his back was to the ring. In an instant, Anthony ambushed Pritchard, and the crowd erupted as he was assaulted. The angle reached its most shocking moment when Anthony retrieved rope and tied Pritchard's hands behind his back. With the crowd screaming in disbelief, Anthony and Mystic then used additional rope to hang Pritchard from the ring post, creating a scene that blurred the line between performance and genuine danger. Only then did a group of babyfaces rush in to save him, restoring order and giving the audience a moment of relief. The segment was so graphic and convincing that it drew the attention and ire of CWF's television carriers, demonstrating just how far the promotion had pushed the boundaries of acceptable content. What was intended as a storyline to generate heat had crossed into territory so extreme that it prompted real-world consequences for the promotion, highlighting both the power and risk of realism in wrestling storytelling. The feud between Pritchard and Anthony did not end with the shocking rope and ring post segment. It continued to captivate audiences for a while. They had matches, including a brutal street fight throughout the year. The rivalry reached its competitive climax on October 3, 1988, in Birmingham, Alabama, when Pritchard defeated Anthony in the finals of a tournament to claim the vacant CWF Heavyweight Championship. In the rapidly shifting wrestling landscape of the late 1980s, regional promotions struggled to compete as WWF and WCW expanded nationally, absorbing talent and television exposure. Unable to sustain itself in this climate, the Continental Wrestling Federation folded the following year. Tony Anthony continued to perform on the Southern independent scene, even reprising aspects of the controversial feud in Jim Cornette's Smoky Mountain Wrestling, though the storyline never reached the same level of notoriety. He later had a brief run in the WWF under the mid-card persona T.L. Hopper, a stint that proved largely forgettable compared to the impact of his earlier territorial work. Tom Prichard continued wrestling, also joining Smoky Mountain Wrestling in the early 1990s, where he formed the successful tag team, the Heavenly Bodies. He later transitioned to the WWF as part of the Body Donnas, winning the Tag Team Championship, and eventually became a respected trainer and coach, helping develop future stars in WWE's developmental system. The feud between Tom Prichard and Tony Anthony in the Continental Wrestling Federation stands as one of the most unsettling examples of territorial wrestling's willingness to push the boundaries of realism. By centering a storyline on manipulation, betrayal, and the suggestion of domestic violence, CWF created a moment that blurred the line between fiction and reality.